Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, my pranam to you.
Pranam to you. Nice to see you again.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Disha Mataji, you all ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, let me share my screen and then we should be ready to go. Just bear with me 1 minute. Let's see. That is the... Okay, we are ready to go. If you can say the invocation and begin when you're ready.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Verse 1.5.1. Sut Uvacha Attam Sukmasina Upasinam Braharchavaha Devarshihi Praha Viprarshim Veena Panihi Swamsmayannaiva.
Sutta Goswami said, thus the sage among the gods, Narada, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed the Rishi among the Brahmanas, Vedavyas.
Verse 5.2. Narad Uvacha Parasharya Mahabhaga Bhavatah Kachidatmana Paritushyati Shariratma Manasa Eva Va.
Addressing Vyasadev, the son of Parashar, Narad inquired, are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization?
Verse 5.3. Jignyasitam susampannam apite mahadbhutam krutvan bharatam yastvam sarvartha paribrahmitam.
Your inquiries were full and your studies were also well fulfilled, and there is no doubt that you have prepared a great and wonderful work, the Mahabharata, which is full of all kinds of Vedic sequences elaborately explained.
Verse 5.4. Jignasit madhitam cha brahma yatat sanatanam tathapi shochasyatmanam krutartha eva prabho.
You have fully delineated the subject of impersonal Brahman as well as knowledge derived therefrom. Why you should be despondent in spite of all this, thinking that you are undone, my dear Prabhu?
Verse 5.5. Vyasa uvacha astyeva me sarvamidam tvayoktam tathapi natma paritushyate me tanmoolam avyaktam magad bodham pruchhamahe tvam bhavatma bhutam.
Sri Vyasadeva said, all you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all this, I am not pacified. I therefore question you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction, for you are a man of unlimited knowledge due to your being the offspring of one Brahma, who is self-born, without mundane father and mother.
Verse 5.6. Savai bhavan ved samasta guhya mupasito yat purushaha puranaha paravaresho mansaiva vishvam shrujatyavattyati gunaira sangaha.
My Lord, everything that is mysterious is known to you because you worship the creator and destroyer of the material world and the maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to the three modes of nature.
Verse 5.7. त्वं पर्यट्टनर्कयीव त्रिलोकिम् अनन्तश्चरो वायुरिवात्मसाक्षी परावरे ब्रह्मणि धर्मतो व्रतैः स्नातस्य निमे न्यूनमलं विचक्ष्व.
Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the three worlds, and like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as all pervasive supersoul. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under the disciplinary regulations and vows.
Verse 5.8 Shri Narad Uvacha Bhavatanuditprayam Yasho Bhagavato Malam Yenaivaso Natushye Manye Tad Darshanam Khilam.
Srinathad said, "You have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy, which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord, is considered worthless."
Verse 5.9 Yatha dharmadayaschartha munivaryānukirtitaha na tatha vasudevasya mahimayanuvarnitaha.
Although great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles beginning with religious performances. You have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality, Vasudeva.
Verse 5.10 Navad yadvaschchitrapadam hareryasho jagat pavitram pragrunit karichit tadvayasam tirthamushinti mansa nayatra hansa niramantu shikshaya.
Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage of crows, since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there.
Verse 5.11 Tadvag visargo jantag viplavo yasmin pratishlo kambadvatyapi namanyanantasya yashonkitani yat shrunvanti gayanti grunanti sadava.
On the other hand, that literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest.
Verse 5.12 Naishkarmyam api chudbhavavarjitam na shobhate gyanmalam niranjanam kutaha punaha shashvat bhadramishware na charpitam karma yadpya karanam.
Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord?
Verse 5.13 Atho mahabhag bhavan moghadrat shuchi shravaha satyarto dhrutvrataha uru kramasya khil bandhan muktaye समाधिनानुस्मर चेष्टितम्.
O Vyasadeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness, and thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage.
Verse 5.14. ततो अन्यथा किञ्चन यद्विवक्षतः पृथक् त्रसस्तत्कृतारूपनमाभिः न कर्हि चित्वापि च दुःस्थिता मतिर्लभेत वाताहतनोरिवास्पदम्.
Whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms, names, and results to agitate the mind, as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place.
Verse 5.15. जुगुप्सितं धर्मकृते अनुशासतः स्वभावरक्तस्य महान् व्यतिक्रमः यद्वाक्यतो धर्म इति तरः स्थितो न मन्यते तस्य निवारणं जनः.
The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions.
Verse 5.16. विचक्षणोऽस्यार्हति वेदितुं विभोर् अनन्तपारस्य निवृत्तितः सुखम् प्रवर्तमानस्य गुणैरनात्मनस् अतो भवान् दर्शय चेष्टितं विभोः.
The Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality, retired from the activities of material happiness, deserve to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown the ways of transcendental realization by your goodness through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord.
Verse 5.17. त्यक्त्वा स्वधर्मं चरणाम्बुजं हरेर् भजन्न पक्वोत्पते ततो यदि यत्र क्ववाप्त्रं भूतमुष्य किं को वार्थ आप्तो भजतां स्वधर्मतः.
One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything.
Verse 5.18. तस्यैव हेतोः प्रयतेत कोविदो न लभ्यते यद् ब्रह्मतामुपर्यधः तल्लभ्यते दुःखवदन्यतः सुखं कालेन सर्वत्र गभीररमासा.
People who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet Brahmaloka down to the lowest planet Patal. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries even though we do not desire them.
Verse 5.19. न वै जनो जातु कथञ्चनाव्रजेन् Mukunda seva anyavad angasmas samspratim smaran mukunda griyupaguhanam punar vihatum ichchena rasgraho janaha.
My dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruity workers, etc. Because a person who has once realized, who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord, can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again.
Verse 5.20. Idam hi vishwam bhagwani vetaro yato jagatsthan nirodha sambhava tadhi swayam ved bhavan statapi te pradesha matram bhavatah pradarshitam.
The Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, is himself this cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. From him only is this cosmic manifestation emanated, in him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have given only a synopsis. Hare Krishna. Pardon me for my mistakes. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Disha Mataji. Very nicely recited and very clearly you read the translations to Puja Mataji. Thank you so much. So let me just go back. And Devanagari Synonyms. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to today's chat session. I'm fortunate I got the opportunity today to recite and discuss Srimad Bhagavatam in your association. I normally do not do so on a Saturday, but by Krishna's mercy, I've been given some opportunity. Today we continue with our reading and discussion of first canto, chapter 5, chapter entitled Narada's Instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. And today we'll be discussing text number 19 in more detail. So just bear with me. Number 19, sorry, it's taking some time. Okay. Navai Jano Jatu Kata Chana Vrajan Mukunda Sevi Anyavad Angasam Shritatim Smaram Mukunda Kri Upaguhanun Gu Hanam Punar Vihatum Ichena Rasagraho Janaha. Word for word synonyms: na, never; vai, certainly; jana, a person; jatu, at any time; kata, katanchana, some other; avrajit, does not undergo; mukunda sevi, the devotee of the Lord; anyavat, like others; oh my dear; samshritim, material existence; smaran, remembering; mukunda, angry, the lotus feet of the Lord; upaghuhanam, embracing; puna, again; vihatum, willing to give up; ichet, desire; now, never; rasagraha, one who has relished the mellow, Jana person. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruitive workers, etc. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. Purport by Srila Prabhupada will recite the Mangala Charanam at the end of the purport. Would anyone like to read the first paragraph?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, sure. Oh, what happened there? I think I pressed the wrong button. Just bear with me, Puja Mataji. I'm going to go back now. Okay, that's there. Okay. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. A devotee of the Lord automatically becomes uninterested in the enchantment of material existence because he is Rasagraha, or one who has tasted the sweetness of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. There are certainly many instances where devotees of the Lord have fallen down due to uncongenial association, just like fruity workers who are always prone to degradation. But even though he falls down, a devotee is never to be considered the same as the fallen karmi. A karmi suffers the results of his own fruitive reactions, whereas devotee is reformed by chastisement directed by the Lord himself. The sufferings of an orphan and the sufferings of a beloved child of a king are not one and the same. An orphan is really poor because he has no one to take care of him. But a beloved son of a rich man, although he appears to be on the same level as an orphan, is always under the vigilance of his capable father. A devotee of the Lord, due to wrong association, sometimes imitates the fruity workers. The fruity workers want to load it over the material nature. Similarly, a neophyte devotee foolishly thinks of accumulating some material power in exchange for devotional service. Such foolish devotees are sometimes put into difficulty by the Lord himself. As a special favor, he may remove all material paraphernalia. By such action, the bewildered devotee is forsaken by all friends and relatives, and so he comes to his senses again by the mercy of the Lord and is set right to execute his devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Puja Mataji. Anyone likes to read the next?
Can I read it, Prabhuji?
Yes, please do, Suprabhataji.
Hare Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that such fallen devotees are given a chance to take birth in a family of highly qualified brahmanas or in a rich mercantile family. A devotee in such a position is not as fortunate as one who is chastised by the Lord and put into a position seemingly of helplessness. The devotee who becomes helpless by the will of the Lord is more fortunate than those who are born in good families. The fallen devotees born in a good family may forget the lotus feet of the Lord because they are less fortunate. But the devotee who is put into a forlorn condition is more fortunate because he swiftly returns to the lotus feet of the Lord, thinking himself helpless all round. Can I continue?
Yes, Mataji, please do.
Pure devotional service is so spiritually relishable that a devotee becomes automatically uninterested in material enjoyment. That is the sign of perfection in progressive devotional service. A pure devotee continuously remembers the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna and does not forget him even for a moment, not even in exchange for all the opulence of the three worlds. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So let me just go down to the verse again. So before we discuss this beautiful verse, let us recite the Mangala Charanam prayers. You can also do so behind muted mics. Om Jnanatimirandasya Anjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Damayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadaitam Savadutan Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gogi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vashari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurani Esha Shunyavadi Praschacha Deshatadine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So on the screen, I have a summary of where we have arrived to in this particular canto. So thus far we've read in the first 7 verses, Narada asks Vyasadeva whether he is satisfied with what he has written. And Vyasadeva responds that he is not, that he's become despondent, wanting to know what is the cause of his despondency. And essentially Narada Muni says, despondent because you have failed to do the most important thing in your writings. And what is that? Is to describe the important pastimes of Lord Krishna. So in this particular section of verses, Sri Narada is describing to Vyasadeva the glories of devotional service. So Sri Narada has told Vyasadeva, you should describe devotional service. You should describe the pastimes of the Lord. And now, in this verse, he's saying, why? Why is it? And from verses 17 to 19, 19 is the one we're reading today, which is the last in this series. Srila Narada is giving one reason, and that is that when one follows the process of bhakti, that credit one acquires or accrues while performing devotional service, it is to one's eternal credit. And bhakti is so supreme, so supremely powerful, that even if one falls down, then there is no loss. There is no loss. So we shall go back to the verse. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Just bear with me. Where's the verse now? Okay. So Narada says, my dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna falls down, some of the other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like other fruit workers. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada makes some very important point. We see in the material world, there are two types of people. One is the karmi, the gross materialist, and the other is the devotee of the Lord. Sometimes we may experience that both people or both sections have a fall down. Actually, the karmis, they are always having fall downs because they are under the material energy. It is normally not expected that a devotee will fall down, but sometimes a devotee falls down. Falls down means going back into sense gratification, engaging in sense gratification. So externally, it may seem that both people are in the same category, same situation. But Srimad Bhagavatam says no, not at all. Not at all. Now this verse is very important and relevant for us because, largely speaking, we are neophytes. And we are prone to fall down even though we are engaged in devotional service. The material energy is so powerful. The verse that Sri Narada is speaking here is very encouraging for us. And we should always remember this verse. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice purport, a very nice analogy or metaphor. And Srila Prabhupada talks about the orphan and the son of a rich person, or the son of a king. Sometimes both people may fall down, the orphan and the son of a king. We may find them in the street, all destitute. And one passing both people, one may think, oh, look at these people. They are so bereft. But Prabhupada says they are not on the same platform. The orphan has no shelter, has no one that is constantly thinking about his welfare, who is worried about him, who is concerned about him, who is always ready and willing and able to come and rescue that person out of the difficult situation. But the son of the king, the son of the rich person, that son has his father, who's always thinking, where is my son? How is he doing? If he only calls out to me once, I will run to him. I will rescue him. I will make him well and well situated again. So Srila Prabhupada explains that's the difference between an ordinary person who falls down and a devotee who falls down. The devotee of the Lord, he is always thinking of the Lord, even in a very difficult situation, even in a fallen condition. The devotee is thinking of the Lord, and the Lord is thinking of the devotee. The Lord is always thinking of the devotee. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stateva bhajamiham. As people surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So one who has surrendered unto Krishna, Krishna never forgets. In the Mahabharata, there is one nice illustration of this point. Once, Maharaj Yudhisthira walked into the room of Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna was very, very deep in thought, completely absorbed. He did not even notice that Maharaj Yudhisthira had entered into the room. So Maharaj Yudhisthira, being a very intimate associate of the Lord, he could do so, and he inquired from Lord Krishna, what were you thinking of? You were so deep in meditation, so deep in thought. What were you thinking of? And Lord Krishna says, right now, Grandfather Bhishma is lying on a bed of arrows. And he's in a very precarious condition, about to die. And in that condition, he is fully absorbed in thoughts of me. And Krishna says, in the same way, I am absorbed in thoughts of Grandfather Bhishma. So when one thinks of Lord Krishna, Krishna also thinks of that person. And in this verse, there's one very important, two very important words, rasa, graha. And Prabhupada translates it as one who has relished the mellow. So anyone who has at some point in life surrendered to Lord Krishna, that person experiences a taste, a rasa, which the Prabhupada translates here as mellow. That rasa is unlike anything or any experience we've had before. Unlike anything. And once having that higher taste, one can never forget it. Param drishtva nivartate. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that once having experienced this higher taste, one can never fall down. And that higher taste is only the taste that comes from serving Lord Krishna. And even in the most difficult situation, having once tasted such rasa, a devotee will never forget that. And the verse says, one who has relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, we see the example of Maharaj Bharat. Maharaj Bharat, he was on a very, very exalted stage of devotional service, the stage of Bhava Bhakti. But somehow or the other, he fell down. He became attached to a deer and he fell down. And temporarily, he got entangled from his devotional service and became more focused on the deer. So because of that situation, in the next birth, he had to take his birth as a deer. But Srimad Bhagavatam explains that even when he took birth as a deer, he would not associate with the other deers. He would not go searching after the green grass. He would simply live aloof from the other deer. And he would remember his past devotional service. And then after he had passed away as a deer, he took birth as Jad Bharat. And when he took birth as Jad Bharat, he told himself, I will never forget the lotus feet of Krishna again. And he acted like a deaf and dumb person. And he would constantly remain absorbed in thoughts of Lord Krishna. So we see that in this very powerful example in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But there are many, many, many examples. And that is the very unique nature of devotional service. That is the glory of devotional service. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains something even from a different angle. In the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter number 6, in text number 30, Arjuna asks Krishna a very important question. What happens to that person who takes up devotional service, but for some reason or the other isn't able to complete it? What happens to such a person? Does he fall away like a riven cloud? And Lord Krishna says, no. A devotee never falls down. A devotee never falls down. Whatever devotional service is done, Krishna remembers. I was reading a beautiful extract early on. Let's see if I can find it. So Srila Prabhupada in lecture, he says, so one thing is guaranteed. If you engage in Krishna consciousness, and suppose you do not become perfectly mature, some way or other, you fall down. We should not fall down, because if we got enthusiasm and patience, we shall not fall down. But suppose we fall down. Shastra says, Tasya abhadra abhud amusya kim. There is nothing inauspicity, because whatever you have done sincerely, that is recorded in the book, in the Krishna's book. Krishna has got accountant, and Prabhupada laughs. He keeps nice account of the activities of his devotees. That's a fact. Just like the non-devotees' accounts are kept by Yamaraj for punishment, similarly, devotees' accounts are kept by Krishna personally. Ye yatamam prapajante tams tataiva bhajamiham. He keeps account. How he says, I shall respond to the devotee to the proportionate surrender. And Krishna says, either he will be born in a rich family or in a family of devotees, and he will take up his devotional service. Now, Srila Prabhupada even goes further and he draws a distinction between those two classes of people. Prabhupada says the one who takes birth in a rich family is not as fortunate as one who becomes completely destitute, has no other option than to rely and be dependent on Krishna completely. We will see, Prabhupada says, that one who he has no choice but to depend completely on Krishna, he has some special mercy. In the Bhagavatam, there's a verse that says that when Krishna feels particularly merciful on someone, he takes away everything. So we should not think that for someone who's become destitute, that he's in a fallen condition. No. The devotee can never forget the lotus feet of Krishna. And there's some other beautiful verses in the Bhagavatam. And I'll just share one in particular from the 11th canto, which is famous, but it's a very encouraging verse, where Lord Krishna says to Uddhava in 11th canto, chapter number 20, text number 27 to 28. The Lord says, having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories. So that is us. Somehow or the other, some faith is awakened in us. And we come every day or whenever we can, as far as possible, we gather together. And because of that faith, we come together to hear the narrations of the Lord's glories. And Krishna saying, being disgusted with all material activities. We all know material life, there is no juice there. All the juice is gone. There is no any happiness or satisfaction with such material activities. Knowing all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sense gratification. My devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction, even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment. My devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities. So here Lord Krishna is explaining again very clearly, the fall down of a devotee is not the same as the fall down of a karmi. In the Maharaj Parikshit asks Shukadev Goswami, what should one do when he falls down? And Shukadev Goswami, trying to test Maharaj, he says one should do prayaschitta, meaning atonement. And immediately Maharaj Parikshit rejects that proposal, and he gives the example of an elephant who takes a bath and then puts mud on himself again. And then Shukadev Goswami becomes very glad. And he explains that devotional service. A devotee who falls down has to perform no prayaschitta or atonement. He simply has to carry on executing the devotional service. And that devotional service will always take the devotee to the supreme destination. We can discuss so much more on this beautiful verse, but maybe it's an appropriate time. It's 25:02. I shall stop here and take any questions or comments. Hare Krishna. Or reflections. Okay. Everyone is just so much relishing the verse, I think.
Prabhuji,
Yes.
yes, I've got just a doubt or uncertainty about one who is fallen down. Exactly, is fallen down. What that means is getting the spiritual activity too much engrossed, enjoying the material life, or somebody who is at heart spiritually minded, but because of the certain responsibility that comes on a person because of death of somebody or looking after children or something, but it's still devotional at heart, but unable to allocate as much time as before that he was doing the devotional service. Does that mean fallen as well?
Yes. There's different ways of different perspectives you can look at it from Puja Mataji. The basic fall down is to forget Krishna. Is to forget Krishna, and forgetting Krishna means Prabhupada says we have only two choices: to serve Krishna or to serve Maya. So in any situation where we are doing some service and we are not remembering Krishna, then we are in Maya. That's one type of fall down. The other type of fall down is to get entangled by the senses and to start engaging in sense gratification again, breaking the regulator principles or something like that. So it can be both, even in one's duties, one forgets Krishna. And it could also be neglectful of sadhana.
Okay.
Srila Prabhupada says, chanting 16 rounds, minimum of 16 rounds, and following the 4 regulator principles. So a devotee may sometimes forget that. So it can be different ways we can fall down, but one is definitely to become distance from one's devotional service. Yeah.
Whatever reason.
Yeah.
Okay, nicely explained. Thanks, Prabhuji. Thank you.
So let me see in the chat box now. I saw something came up. So a question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. And I'll
Hare
pronounce
Krishna,
again.
Prabhupada.
I just had one small but might be stupid question. So the sense gratification at the ground level, just wondering what all could that include? Say, for instance, spending some evenings with the family, maybe playing with the kids, and maybe sometimes sitting with colleagues in the office, or maybe just talking about a couple of things in the office, but not related to work exactly. And maybe doing the laundry, but not necessarily thinking that it's the service of Krishna, or sometimes here and there our mind running, and sometimes we will have to involve our mind in thinking and planning a couple of things which are not necessarily related to Krishna. Say, for instance, I have to go to office and I have to go or start at this time, planning a couple of things and etc. Even though ultimately we are living for the Lord, but these small chunks of the work are not directly related to pleasing Krishna. Does that mean that is the sense gratification? At least, when we get some pleasure out of spending time with the family, etc.
No, I don't think so. It's more like a sustained, for some period. A fall down generally is when, for some days one becomes neglectful of one's sadhana, one's spiritual practices. But for some moments, no, that generally is not considered to be a fall down.
I mean the sense gratification. I meant
sense gratification. Yeah, I would say, momentarily you are engaged in some activity, maybe with some colleagues at work or some family members. As long as we are always thinking, I am a servant of Krishna, and one does not forget one's constitutional position. So, yeah, I wouldn't say. It depends on from which vantage point you're looking at it, Sailaja Mataji. For a sadhaka, a neophyte, that wouldn't be considered a fall down. But for an advanced devotee, that could be considered a fall down. So it depends on from which perspective you're looking at. Yeah.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say the examples you've just quoted now will be considered according to this verse a fall down. There's another question here. How do we know we are surrendering to Lord Krishna? So in the Bhagavad Gita, in the purport to verse 1866, Srila Prabhupada explains what is surrender. Lord Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. So quoting one verse from the Shastra, Anukulyasya Sankalpa. What is the verse now? Anukulyasya Sankalpa, Pratikulyasya Varjanam. Where he says, Prabhupada explains that there are 6 angas or limbs to surrender, which means surrender. And they are, the first is to accept everything that is favorable for the service of Lord Krishna. 2 is to reject everything that is not favorable to the service of Lord Krishna. 3 is to see Lord Krishna as one's only maintainer. 4 is to see Lord Krishna as one's only protector. 5 is to be meek and humble in all situations. And 6 is to surrender one's Atma Nivedanam, one's body, mind, and words to Lord Krishna. So those are the 6 angas or to Lord Krishna. So the first 2, anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulasya varjanam, accept everything favorable, reject that which is not favorable. That means surrendering the mind, because the nature of the mind is to accept, reject. The next 2, seeing Lord Krishna as one's only maintainer and protector, that's surrendering one's intelligence, because the nature of the intelligence is to make plans for one's own sense gratification. And when one gives that up and depends on Krishna. And the last one is the ego, to feel meek and humble and to surrender one's body, mind, and words to Lord Krishna. So that is what is surrender. There's another question or comment. Does it mean that if one is taken ill and is unable to do japa, that is a fallen soul? No. No, Mataji. Even though one is, this verse clearly says, this verse gives a very broad category, that in whatever situation one is, if one is down in the dumps, one is in the drain, if one thinks, when I was serving Krishna, when I was able to serve Krishna, that was so sweet. Then if one simply thinks like that, one is not fallen. Even if you're not able to do one's japa, even if one is sick, if one thinks, oh, when I held my beads and when I used to do my japa, the names of Krishna used to be so sweet. That is not fallen. That is exalted. That is exalted. So, yeah. So while I wait for if there's any other questions or comments, there's just one announcement from Sriji Kishori Mataji. Tomorrow there's a Bhagavad Gita class at 1:30. And there is a very exalted and enthusiastic and advanced devotee. Sriji Mataji will be presenting the Bhagavad Gita class. So if anyone likes to attend, please attend.
It's actually Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. It's actually Her Grace Sri Devi Mataji.
What did I say?
Sri Ji.
Oh yes, Sri Devi. Yeah, sorry, I got it wrong.
Yeah, just like you said that she is a most ecstatic devotee, and she is. She is. So she's going to facilitate our Bhagavad Gita class tomorrow at 1:30. And Mataji is based in Mayapur. So we're all very happy that she can actually facilitate our class tomorrow. I'd like everyone to join if possible. And I can share the link with the 3 chat groups or the Zoom link, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So are there any other questions, comments, or reflections that anyone has?
Prabhuji, one last question.
Yes,
Sorry,
sure.
just in a couple of tough situations when we don't know what is happening around, how do we maintain and keep up the faith in the Lord and to retain our faith in the chanting and the same mood in the service and get going?
Just think about Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says, simply, if one is able to, and in any situation, think, I am an eternal servant of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says, one is already liberated. So, whatever the situation is, whatever difficulty we're having, if we can simply think, my eternal position is I am servant of Krishna, and I should serve Krishna at the first opportunity I get, then there is no loss. We'll always be safe. But when we forget Krishna or devotional service, then it's a bit difficult. It's a bit difficult. But Krishna will not forget us. That's why it's so difficult to answer these questions, because we may forget, but Krishna will never forget. And as long as Krishna remembers us and looking after us, and as Prabhupada said, he's got an account and has kept account, our path will always be glorious. It will always be glorious. Hope I answered your question.
Yes, Prabhuji, yes, that is, yeah, you're very true. You're very true. I mean, sometimes it just gets so difficult and confusing in life on what's happening. We're just not able to make sense out of the situation sometimes, and we get so, entangled in solving a couple of things, and we just feel a little lost. Yeah, so
That's true. It happens to all of us.
So I think that really makes sense, Prabhuji. I mean, not to think of our, material or the physical existence, but just to safeguard our eternal position. So would just get us going no matter what we are through at the temporary situation. That is right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, then, everyone, I think it's time we can close today. Thank you very much for your participation. All glories to your service. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Anantakuri Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Gaur.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Jai. Hare
Oh,
Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.